you give us your philosophy on the mall culture?
Mall culture, very interesting. Probably the wave of the future. Maybe the end of the future.
Some things from the 80s felt completely normal, but try them today, you'd probably end up with a fine or a viral video. We're talking cigarette smoke at Little League games, latchkey kids cooking dinner before they hit double digits, and PG movies with scenes that would absolutely get flagged today. It was a different world, with different rules. A world where you left the house in the morning and came back when the streetlights turned on, where strangers talked to you in line and you talked back, where the back seat wasn't just for passengers, it was a playground, a jungle gym, and sometimes a bed. There were fewer rules, fewer eyes watching, and a whole lot more freedom. Not all of it was safe, not all of it was smart, but somehow it worked. So let's rewind to 9 things that were perfectly acceptable in the 1980s, but would never fly now. Because once you see them through today's eyes, it's a mess. The mall, the movie theater, the living room during Saturday morning cartoons. In the 1980s, smoke was just part of the air. Parents lit up while cooking dinner, while driving with the windows up. Even during a Little League game, ashtray balanced on the bleachers. No one blinked. It was just how things were. Ashtrays came built into everything. Restaurant tables, airplane armrests, even car doors. You could buy a pack of cigarettes from a vending machine. No ID, no questions asked. Teachers smoked in staff rooms. Guests smoked at birthday parties. It wasn't hidden. It wasn't considered rude. It was normal. Secondhand smoke? Asthma risk? Those warnings were barely whispers. Most people hadn't heard them. And if they had, they shrugged it off. You could crack a window, spray some air freshener, but that smell never left. Your jacket reeked. The couch cushions held it for weeks. The whole world had a haze. Looking back, it feels shocking. But at the time, nobody flinched, nobody cared. The smoke just floated between conversations. But if you wanted clean air, cheap food, and total freedom, you headed to the mall. It wasn't about shopping, it was about belonging. In the 80s, the mall was the one place everyone met up. No text, no group chat, just meet by the fountain at 2. You didn't need money, you just needed time. Arcades, food courts, music stores, and that one kiosk that sold glittery sunglasses no one actually wore. You walked in with your friends and a crumpled $5 bill. You walked out with a slice of pizza, 2 new crushes, and a story to tell Monday morning. Parents would drop you off like it was a safe zone. No check-ins, no trackers. Be back by 6. That was the only rule. It's where you got dumped, made up, met someone new, and got bored, all in one afternoon. Try lingering at a mall today without a bag in your hand. You'll get side eyes, or security. But back then, loitering was the point. A teenage time capsule wrapped in neon and orange Julius. And once you stepped outside the mall, that's when the real adventures began, without a single adult in sight. No helmets, no sunscreen, no clue where your parents were. In the 1980s, being a kid meant disappearing, on purpose. You left the house after breakfast with a backpack, a bike, and a vague plan. And you didn't come home until the streetlights flickered on. You built ramps out of plywood and cinder blocks. You climbed fences you had no business climbing. You knocked on your friend's door, and if they weren't home, you just kept riding. Sometimes you got chased by bees, sometimes by the kid with the mean dog. But most days, you just explored, barefoot, sticky, and free. No one texted to check in. No one hovered from a lawn chair. You weren't missing. You were just out. Today, that kind of freedom would spark panic. But back then, it was childhood. A little danger, a lot of dirt, and memories that still smell like summer grass. That was the magic of being a kid in the 80s. No one tracked you. You just showed up with grass stains and stories. You didn't need a car, just a thumb and a little faith in humanity. In the 1980s, hitchhiking was still a thing, not just in movies, not just for free spirits. It was how a lot of people actually got around. College students did it, backpackers, blue-collar workers between towns, even military servicemen in uniform hoping to get home for the weekend. You'd scribble a destination on cardboard, stand near the off-ramp, and wait. Some rides came fast, some took hours, but if you looked clean and had a backpack, you had a shot. It was risky. Everyone kind of knew that. But it didn't feel reckless. It felt normal, cheap, free, adventurous. There were no background checks, no ride-share apps, no real plan. Just two people in a car, sharing miles and silence, or maybe a good story. Today, the idea of hopping into a stranger's car sounds like the start of a true crime podcast. But in the 80s, it was a ride home. Some rides led to conversations you'd never forget. Others led to silence and a long stretch of road. But either way, you climbed in and kept going. Because back then, trusting strangers was normal. The key was on a string, tucked under your shirt or hanging from a backpack zipper. In the 1980s, being a latchkey kid wasn't just common, it was the plan. You let yourself in after school, turned the TV on, made a snack, microwave burrito or cold SpaghettiOs straight from the can. No parents, no sitter, no check-in, just you, the house, and a few hours of total freedom. Sometimes you did homework. Sometimes you built a blanket fort and watched cartoons until dinner. And sometimes you just sat in the quiet, listening for the garage door. You were 8, maybe 9. But in the 80s, that made you capable. You locked the door behind you. You answered the phone like an adult. You figured it out. Today, that kind of independence might raise alarms. But back then, it's how millions of kids learned self-reliance, one hot pocket at a time. And if that wasn't wild enough, some parents hosted virus parties on purpose. Still watching? Then you probably remember the sound of the door closing behind you at 3 p.m. and a house that was yours for just a little while. No one watching, no one waiting, just you, the remote, and whatever came next. Drop "I remember this" in the comments if a moment brought you back. And if you're planning on staying until the end, just say, "It's home." We'll know you're one of us. And if this trip through the 80s is hitting a little too close to memory lane, tap like, hit subscribe. Because coming up next, we're crashing the weirdest party the neighborhood ever threw. One kid got sick, so everyone got invited. In the 1980s, chickenpox wasn't feared. It was scheduled. Parents didn't just hope it would spread. They helped it along. When one kid broke out in itchy red dots, moms picked up the phone. And just like that, a chickenpox party was on. 10 kids in one room, sharing juice boxes, couch cushions, and stuffed animals. One of them visibly contagious, and nobody flinched. The thinking was, better now than later. Get it young, build immunity, be done with it. No masks, no meds, just oatmeal baths and calamine lotion. It was weird, but it worked. Mostly. Today, that would get you reported. Back then, it was parenting, But if that sounds reckless, wait till you hear where they left us. Stay put. I'll be right back. And just like that, the door closed and you were alone. In the 80s, getting left in the car wasn't a scandal. It was routine, the windows cracked, the keys out, and a kid in the back seat with nothing but time and the AM radio. You read comic books, played with the ashtray, pretended the car was a spaceship. Sometimes it was 5 minutes, sometimes longer than it should have been. But no one called the cops, no one freaked out. You didn't feel abandoned. You felt trusted, independent, kinda proud. You might climb into the front seat. You might honk the horn, accidentally, of course, but nobody filmed you. Today, that moment would go viral. Security footage, outrage, CPS. Back then, it was just another errand. You were in charge of the car, and if someone walked by and said hello, you said hello right back. You thought it was a family movie, until the guy's face melted off. In the early 80s, PG didn't mean what it means now. There was no PG-13 yet, just a giant gap between G and R. So studios pushed the envelope, and parents brought their kids, completely unprepared. Indiana Jones and the Temple of Doom, PG. Gremlins, PG. Airplane, also PG, with a topless woman running across the screen. Swearing? Check. Jump scares? Absolutely. Suggestive content? All slipped through. You'd sit there with your snowcaps, staring wide-eyed at the screen, then whisper, "Wait, are we allowed to watch this?" Eventually, the backlash worked. By 1984, the MPAA introduced PG-13, but not before a generation of kids sat through scenes they'd be quoting in therapy. Today, parents comb through reviews and screen time breakdowns. Back then, you read the movie poster and hoped for the best. They weren't just things we did, they were normal until the world changed. Smoking in restaurants, trusting strangers, running errands alone at age 9. Hitchhiking felt safe. Latchkey afternoons felt normal. And movie ratings? They were a gamble. We didn't think twice. We just did these things because they were part of growing up in the 1980s. Today, it all sounds reckless, maybe even outrageous. But for those who lived it just sounds familiar. And if even one of these memories brought you back, then this trip was worth it. Stick around for more. Because here at Remember This, the past isn't just history, it's home.